how are y'all doing? I'm doing fine. It's been a very long time since I posted anything, but in my defense, we moved out of our big house. It really isn't big, but into about a 400 square foot cottage. And we also then have two sheds. I don't even like the words shed because they're really nice, and Dave built them, and they're great. I just love them. But one is fully given over to my apothecary and my new toy, my freeze dryer, which I'll be having to post about that. And the other one we're using as a bedroom. So we are kind of in this interesting little, well, everybody who comes here says, you guys are camping, which it does kind of feel like that, but in a great way. When I'm up to it and have a few things out of here that are just kind of sitting around right now, I'll show you. Maybe I'll do that and put it at the end of the video. But we have a little courtyard that is created by those three sheds that make kind of a U, and then we have one of those Costco gazebos over the top of it, and it just creates this little wonderful little cozy covered area. We have one of those propane fire tables that we used all summer long sitting out here, and we're going to enclose it somehow like we did the one in the big house, which is 1,351 square feet, so it never was a big house. But we had one of these out on the back patio and used it all fall and winter. I mean, I loved that room. We had carpet out there. It was on the patio, but we had carpet, and then we enclosed it, and it was just wonderful. We put a Christmas tree out there, and I loved it. So we're gonna do something similar here. But that's what we've been doing for months, it seems like. We moved out here in March or April. I think maybe it was the end of April, and have been just working like crazy trying to get everything ready in the house to rent it out. And I kept telling Dave, because we just kept saying, man, this is taking forever to get this house rented. But I said at one point, I think we're being stalled because somebody specifically needs it. And sure enough, when I put it on Facebook, right away I heard from some dear friends of ours who were moving back from Florida, and they needed it. So they're moving in, I think, next week, and we'll be here probably till June, and then we're going to rent it out again. But that's been taking a ton of time. And then last year, almost exactly a year ago, at the end of this month, it'll be a year, I went back into real estate, which always was my first love. I mean, my first love is writing, but I wrote so intensively for so many years. For 7 years, I wrote 14 books in 7 years, and I've been writing pretty, intensively before that, but that was really a crazy period of life. And the one thing about writing is it's just such a solitary endeavor, and I like to be around people. So when I decided to kind of take a break from that, because the last person I wrote for was Pastor Chuck Smith. I was his writer for those 7 years, and for his wife Kay. And when Pastor Chuck passed away, I think it was 10 years ago yesterday, I think it was yesterday. Anyway, it was just a labor of love for him, and a lot of my oomph kind of went out of me for it. I just needed to take a little break, and it turned into a long break. But back to real estate, I love it, love it, love it. I'm so glad to be doing it again. I love my clients, and this go round, for some reason, I'm doing a lot of estates. I have a lawyer that's been referring to me, and other people have been referring to me. And there's something about working with families when they're dealing with that loss, and then helping them to get their loved one's home on the market. I've actually acted as general manager on about 4 of them lately because they needed extensive work. One of the houses was not lived in for 14 years and didn't have gas or electric or water for 14 years. That's a whole story in itself. I can't get into that now. I'll have to talk to you about that later, but we're getting ready to go on the market next week. But anyway, so that's kept me super busy. And then, just to be honest, you kind of fall out of the habit of uploading videos. It's just something where you're in a groove and you're doing it, and then if you take a break for any length of time, suddenly it seems like a giant thing to get back into it. And even this time, I had bought some fancy lights because I wanted to have a little studio, just because it's so hard to get good lighting. And you always have to, if you're doing it outside, you gotta watch for shadows and weird stuff like that. And then in the house, it's hard to get good lighting. And so I made it more difficult than it needed to be. So I do have all the fancy lights, but, and I might put some of them in my apothecary. I'm leaning against my apothecary right now, so that you know. But just for today, I thought I just need to jump in there and just chat a little bit and say hello. and I'm not going to go through all that. So I just brought my stand out here, and I'm sitting out in the natural lighting up against my apothecary. So I hope you don't mind, but this is what I needed to do. So that, the apothecary has been just a huge labor of love, of joy for me, because I am sad every night when I have to blow out the candles and turn off all the lights in there and leave it. It's my favorite place on our property now, and I just can't wait. We're almost there. We've got a few more little things we have to do to get our place where we want it, but then I'm going to jump full-time into, well, as full-time as I can do, working full-time, into getting the apothecary up and where it's like actively I'm working on stuff all the time, because I have all these recipes I want to try out. I'm making magnesium lotion, magnesium spray, all my salves, all my teas, things that I get lost in that, in doing those things. I love it so much. I can't even describe it. And then I'm working on a prayer journal. I'm sure I'll share about that, because I don't know, it's just the times that we're living in, but I know God is doing a work, and he is stirring his people. And everywhere I go and everyone I talk to, we're all sensing the same urgency about just pulling in tight with the Lord and with each other. I keep hearing the same message: fix your eyes, fix your eyes, fix your eyes. I found myself saying it to this young girl that came to me for counsel last month. I just said, you have to fix your eyes on Jesus. You know, you can't look to the right or the left. And then I saw a YouTube video where a pastor's wife got a vision where she said God was bringing a shakening on the church, and that the only people who stood were those who, it was though their feet were in cement and their eyes were firmly fixed on Jesus, and they were looking to the right or to the left. And that was right after I'd been saying that, and I'd heard 3 or 4 other people in the same week talking about that. So I do think God is telling us to fix our eyes on Jesus. And the whole notion of prayer, you know, E.M. Bounds is one of my favorite writers, and in his book, Purpose in Prayer, he talks about, just says the most amazing things about prayer, about how prayers are deathless, and though the lips that uttered them may have been stilled, and the heart that felt them stopped beating, they still live before God. And it talked about how he said, woe to the generation whose fathers have been too busy or too neglectful, he says it better than that, to pray for them. And it has hit me so many times. The first time I read it, I just was blown away by that. The whole idea of our prayers being deathless. I love that. And so I wrote that out on the first page of my prayer journal, and I have a section for family, and I've got little post-its with my family members that I am praying specific things for. And then what I'm doing, and this isn't my idea, I got this on YouTube from, of course, YouTube. I mean, don't get everything from YouTube. I go to the University of YouTube. So anyway, this woman, Sister Rita's, I think it is, I just caught one of her videos where she was doing a prayer Bible, and she got a little compact Bible, which, by the way, you can do that. You can read size 6 font when you're 30 years old, okay? But, oh, that's another new thing. This is new. I hope you like it. I love it. It was a long time coming. I colored my hair for 31 years, and I'm 62. So literally half of my life I've been coloring my hair. And one day I just said, that's it, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. Because I'd been doing it myself, you know, because I'm kind of cheap like that. But I threw everything in the garbage, and I just said, I'm not doing it. I can't do it anymore. So I'm really excited about it. I love the color, and I just can't wait till it's all silver. So anyway, that's new. But when you're young, like this Sister Rita lady is, and she's just adorable, you can buy the 6-point font little compact Bible and fill it up with all your little tabs and your cute little washi tape and all that. And she's got some really, to me, I'm sorry, it's a little bit complicated the way she's doing it, but it makes perfect sense to her and the multitude of women who love her and are following her. But I went looking for a little compact Bible, and it was just that font size. I thought, I'm not doing this to myself. I have a Bible that I love, and it's got, you know, I don't know, 30 years now of notes in it, and I just don't want to start over. So what I'm doing is I'm doing an actual journal, one of those ARC systems where it has the kind of round things on the side. And I have a section for family. So I posted a scripture out of Ephesians 13 to 15, I believe it is, or 15 to 19, but about your family, about, you know, it's just a beautiful verse. And that's kind of my go-to. And what I'm doing is, as I pray for each of my family members, I don't pray it word for word and insert them in there. I kind of take the idea of each sentence, you know, God, because you are so rich in all things will you lavish this, and will you bring my loved one, will you bring, then the name, to a place where they understand your love for them. And I just cried last night when I was going through that. It really just touched, I can cry now. It just touched this place in me to be using God's words to pray for my loved ones. And I have a section for prodigals, because I have one very beloved family member who is a prodigal, and another one who has both of them have really pushed us out of their lives for many, many, many years. But I'm praying for another more distant family member that is definitely a prodigal. And something about just using God's own words to speak to God about someone just brings these tears out of this deep place for you. So that's been going on too. Anyway, a lot of great things are going on. We had some hard things happen this year. In particular, within a 3-week period, first we lost my nephew and his wife's, my new niece. Their baby was stillborn with a cord around his neck. And that was just a devastation that, unless you've experienced it with a loved one, you don't really know. Well, everybody's had loss, but we just had her shower, and she was due to give birth to him in about 10 days. And so that was horrible. And then within another few weeks, I lost my dad somewhat. I can't say it was unexpected. He was going downhill for several weeks, but I didn't really think I would lose him that fast. And then within 3 weeks, we lost Dave's father. And he was ill for a while. We could see his health was declining, but there's just a lot of complication to those. Really, it was the contrast between those two men and how they died. And I think I'm already been in this 11 minutes. I think what I'll do is my next video, I'll talk about that and what I learned really watching the way both those men left the world. So I won't get into that anymore. But the other thing is, just for input, if anybody sees this, are you there? Is anybody there? I never know. I did get comments, and I did have a few very sweet people, thank you, write to me and say, please start posting again. And, your dear friends are always your best cheerleaders. But if I just want to know what you think. I named this Hope Grows because I wanted to talk about my testimonies, different things that God had shown me, and just, all the amazing stories of his provisions. Because when you hear all the specific ways that he has provided for Dave and I, or the things he's corrected and are thinking that were super specific, there's just no denying that God is involved in our lives. And I felt like all those things were too good to keep to myself. But then I also really wanted to talk about herbs. And so my dear friend Kathy Taylor said, why don't you do Hope Keeps Growing? And I like that, but I always like succinct, so I named it Hope Grows. And I was just going to talk about, those things, that my stories. Well, but then I kind of want to just share about herbalism, and I want to, share my prayer journal and talk about our life on the little hobby farm and all these little things. And so it's a little bit more eclectic than that. Well, I've had a website for, I don't even know how long I've had that, 20 years maybe, that's called twigandfeather.com. And I do everything in there. It's got all my favorite recipes. It's got stories about our family. It's just loaded with stuff like that. So I'm kind of thinking about maybe changing the name of the channel to Twig and Feather so it could be a bit more eclectic. So I don't know. I'd just like to know your thoughts on that. And plus, it would really, really help me to know that someone is out there. Someone is listening. I would appreciate it. So thanks for everything. You guys have been a great support. And again, I'm glad to be back doing it. I think just jumping in like this might be exactly what I needed. So God bless you guys, and I hope that your lives are going well, and we can talk again soon. Bye-bye.